Hey guys, and welcome back to another challenge video. If you guys didn't get a chance to see it in our last video, we tried to beat Pokemon Platinum with just a Magby. Go check that video out if you haven't seen it after this video. But in today's video, as you see in the title and probably the thumbnail, we're going to try and beat Pokemon Ruby with just an Illumise and a Volbeat. But before we can do that, we have to break down their stats. Let's start off by looking at Illumise's stats. Now, Illumise has a stat total of 430, which is actually really good. His lowest stat is his attack, which is 47, which is pretty bad. Now, the only difference between Volbeat and Illumise's stats is that one has higher attack and one has higher special attack. That's literally the only difference. Besides that, they're pretty much exactly the same. Now let's take a look at the moves they learn by level up. When it comes to Illumise, it learns absolutely no special moves, considering it's special attacker. All its moves are physical and they're not very good. Quick attack, cover, and tackle are the only attack moves it learns, and they're all very terrible moves. Unlike Illumise, Volbeat actually has a really good moveset, including moves like Double Edge and Signal Beam. And now that we have broken down the Pokemon we're going to be using in the challenge, it's time for us to get into the rules. Rule number 1, I will only be allowed to use Illumise and Volbeat to do damage in battle. Rule number 2, I will not be allowed to use items in battle, including held items. As for rule number 3, it's a bit of a weird one. I am not allowed to use TMs on Volbeat, but I am allowed to use them on Illumise, and you'll find out why later on. And as for the last rule, glitches and exploits are not allowed, and obviously HM Slayers are also allowed, but I don't think that's really a rule, it's kind of a general thing. Anyway, with the rules out of the way, it's finally time for us to start the challenge. Now, I start off the challenge by naming myself, and you guys know the drill by now. I name myself Dead because you guys will know that I'm dead inside. After naming myself, we finally begin our journey and we wake up in the back of a truck. Honestly, this has to be against some like child protective laws or something, this is pretty dangerous. Anyway, shortly after having my mum try to get rid of me in the back of that truck, it's time for us to choose our starter. Now, as for my starter, I chose Volbeat, and instead of actually hacking in Illumise or Marijuana or something like that to have it at the start of the game, I'm going to make it more difficult on myself, and I have to catch Illumise to the point where I can catch it in the game, which is after the 3rd gym. Anyway, after choosing our starter, it's time for us to battle Poochyena. Now, to start off the battle against Poochyena, I use Tackle, which does just under half damage to Poochyena. Now, Poochyena's tackles are doing like 2 damage, so I'm not even phased, and then I hit it with a net tackle, knocking Poochyena into the red. And with one final explosive tackle from Volbeat, we take out Poochyena. Now, as for the nickname for Volbeat, I decided to name it after the guy that left a comment about the challenge. His name was Alexander Miller. Shout out to you for this challenge idea. It was amazing, and I was really excited to do it. If you guys want to leave a challenge video idea down in the comments below, feel free to do that, and I'll name the Pokemon after you if you come up with the idea. Anyway, after naming our Pokemon Alexander, it's finally time for us to battle our rival for the first time. Now, when choosing Volbeat as my starter, I replaced Trico so that she would choose Torchic to make this challenge a little bit harder on myself. I would come to regret this later. Just joking, her rival battles are super easy. Now, this battle was a little bit difficult because it came in on half health because I'm an absolute idiot.
Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. I want you to listen. Listen to me carefully. You're an idiot!
Even though I made the mistake of coming in with less than half health, I still managed to beat May on the first try. After defeating May, we head to PETALBURG City. After arriving in PETALBURG City, our father makes himself a really weird kid named Wally catch his first Pokemon. Of course, he gets a 1% encounter rate roll because he's super lucky. Nothing else of note happened in PETALBURG City, so it's time for us to head to the next town. On the way to the next town, we run into Team Magma for the first time. The Magma Grunt turns out a Poochyena, which goes down to 3 tackles really easily. Now on to the next town. Shortly after defeating Team Magma for the first time, we arrive in Rustboro City, and it's time for us to battle the first gym leader, Roxanne. Now at this point I'm only level 16, meaning that I'm way under leveled for this gym considering I only have normal type moves, and it's a rock type gym, meaning that I'm not very effective. So obviously I don't win on my first attempt. Spoiler! Now this gym was a pain in the ass. It took me about 4 hours to beat. This is the run where I finally beat it. I had to be level 25 where I learned Signal Beam, which is a really powerful move. On an unrelated note, my health was at 69 at level 25, which is really nice.
Nice.
Now as you can see, this battle was super easy, barely an inconvenience, and I completely destroyed Roxanne's entire team. And with that we have finally defeated the first gym and defeated Roxanne. And that means it's time for us to set sail towards DEWFORD. Now that we're heading to DEWFORD, it's time for our first shameless plug. If you guys haven't done it already, go below this video and click on that subscribe button, and also turn on post notifications so you can get all my videos when they come out. Now if you like the video, leave a like on it. If you dislike the video up to this point, leave a dislike on it and let me know in the comments what I can improve on, because I'm always trying to improve my videos. And that has been another shameless plug, and with that we have finally arrived in DEWFORD Town. Anyway, shortly after arriving in DEWFORD Town, it's time for us to battle the second gym leader, Brawly. Now to start off the battle, Brawly sends out Machop. Now if you guys didn't know, I've actually done a challenge video on Machop. Link will be in the iCard above this video. Definitely go check that out after this video because it was a pretty cool challenge. Now Machop was a super easy battle and I took it out with only a few single beams. Last but not least, Brawly sends out his Makuhita, and then I decided to heal my health with Moonlight. His Mecha Eater doesn't attack, it just uses bulk up to increase his own stats. I end up wasting a turn to use double team so he'll miss me, but then I take it out with one critical single beam anyway, so yeah. With that we have defeated Gym Leader Broly and claimed ourselves a second gym badge. After defeating Broly we give a letter to Steven. Now that we have delivered the letter to Steven, it's time for us to head to Slayport. Now if you guys have already liked the video and subscribed, go follow me on Instagram, link will be in the description and in the banner above the video. Otherwise it's just DeadPulse Gaming YT. Thank you very much. Anyway, with that out of the way, we have arrived in Slayport. Shortly after arriving in Slayport, it's time for another rival battle. Mei starts off the battle by sending out her Whalema, which goes down to one signal beam. Next up, she sends out her Combustion, and it uses Ember once, so it does a little bit of damage, but then it decides to only use Focus Energy, and I take it out with like 3 quick attacks. Last but not least, Mei sends out her Shroomish, which is a grass type, meaning that single beam is super effective, so obviously I take it out in one shot, defeating Mei for the second time. Shortly after defeating our rival Mei, we arrive in MAUVILLE City. After arriving in MAUVILLE City, it's time for us to battle Wally. At this point in the game, Wally only has level 16 Rolts, which is pretty easy to take out with one signal beam considering it's a psychic type, and bug type moves are super effective, meaning we beat Wally pretty easily. After defeating Wally, it's finally time for us to add Illumise to our team. Now, if you didn't know, Illumise is a 1% encounter rate on this route, so it took me about 40 minutes to catch Illumise, which is ridiculous, but I got it anyway and now Illumise is on the squad. Now you guys know that I'm dumb and uncreative and can't really think of names, so I just decided to call it subscribe, to remind you guys who haven't subscribed yet to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 200 subs before my birthday on May 22nd, so you guys should definitely subscribe so we can hit that goal. After capturing Illumise, I decided to grind up to the same level as Volbeat. It took about 3 hours. Anyway, after grinding Illumise up to level 30, it's finally time for us to verse the next gym. Now I'm not going to beat around the bush. Gym Leader Watson is very difficult because 2 of his Pokemon are both Steel type, meaning that my normal type moves don't do much damage. Now I did manage to take out his Magnemite with a few signal beams, but next up is Voltorb, and because I'm paralyzed, he ends up taking me out with a few sonic booms, meaning I don't win this battle. I do still have Subscribe, but Subscribe only has one move, Quick Attack, and that doesn't do much damage to any of his Pokemon, so it still eventually takes me out pretty easily. At level 37 I managed to make it up to Magaton on some decent health, and with a few signal beams, one of them actually confusing Magaton and him hitting himself in his own confusion, I eventually do take out Magaton, finally defeating Gym Leader Watson. It was at this point that I decided that Illumise was a completely useless Pokemon. Now the problem that I discussed earlier is that Illumise is a special attacker, but he learns absolutely no special attacking moves. Now to be honest, the only reason that I created the rule that Illumise is allowed to use TMs is because Illumise is completely useless without them, and I actually wanted to use Illumise during this challenge, otherwise it would have been just a Volbeat only challenge. Now if you guys do have a problem with that, leave a dislike on the video and leave a comment down below saying how much of a bad human being I am, and that I'm absolute trash. Thank you very much. I decided to teach Illumise Shockwave after defeating Watson just because then it would make it more useful. Anyway, after that we have to head to Fellabor Town. Shortly after leaving Fellabor Town, I run into Team Aqua and Team Magma again. And then it's time for us to travel up to the top of the mountain in a cable car. After travelling to the top of the mountain, we have to battle Magma Leader Maxi. Now to start off the battle, Maxi sends out his Mightyena. Unfortunately, Mightyena has Intimidate as well as my attack stat, but Signal Beam is still strong enough to take it out in one shot. Next up, Maxi sent out his Camerupt, and because I was scared of it because it's a fire type, I decided to use Double Edge and take it out in one shot. I really don't know if that critical mattered or not, but I like to think that it did. Next up, Maxi sends out his Golbat, and Golbat's surprisingly tanky because Double Edge doesn't take it out in one shot. Surprisingly, it only does about 2/3 of its health. But his Golbat does manage to take me out with a Wing Attack. Luckily though, I still have Subscribe, which I send out, and then I use Quick Attack, but unfortunately he heals, but then I do take him out next turn with a Shockwave, winning the battle and defeating Maxi. After defeating Maxi, it's time to head to LAVARIDGE Town, and it's time for us to attempt what I thought would be the hardest gym battle in the entire run, the Fire-type gym leader, Flannery. And I think it would have been if I was playing Emerald, but then I remembered I was playing Ruby, where the teams are really shitty, and she has 2 Slugmas for some reason, which both go down to like 1 Double Edge. So yeah, surprisingly easy. Unfortunately, our last Pokemon is Torkoal, which takes out Alexander with 1 Overheat. Luckily, I still have Subscribe, and Subscribe takes out Torkoal with 2 Shockwaves, meaning we beat Flannery on the first try, which was really surprising. I almost leaped out of my chair when I beat her the first time. After defeating Flannery, it's time for us to head back to PETALBURG City and verse the hardest gym in this entire game. It's time to verse the 5th gym leader, Norman, our father, the normal type gym leader. To start off the battle, Norman sent out his strongest Pokemon, Slacking, and luckily for me, Slacking made some really dumb moves. It started off by using Facade, but then I knocked it down with Signal Beam to enough health that it kept healing, but eventually I do take it out with a few Signal Beams. Next up, Norman sends out Vigoroth, so I decided to change to Subscribe. Now Vigoroth is very tanky, so to be honest I didn't think Shockwave would do that much damage. I was thinking maybe about a quarter damage, but then it did about half.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Unfortunately, my next shockwave doesn't take it out, so it heals up with a hyper potion, but eventually I do take out Vigoroth with a few more shockwaves. Last but not least, Norman sends out his next slacking. Unfortunately for me, shockwave does like no damage to slacking, and then slacking takes me out with a facade. Luckily, I'm still able to send out Alexander. Alexander comes out, uses 2 signal beams, taking out slacking, defeating the 5th gym, and claiming the 5th gym badge. Anyway, after defeating our father, we head out to the next town, and we run into Steven. Anyway, after talking to Steven, it's time for us to battle May once again. Just like last time, sends out Whalmer as the first Pokemon, and it goes down to one shot like it did last time, but this time it's the double edge and not single beam. Next up, she sends out her Combustion, which I also used double edge on, taking it out in one shot. Now I know I could have used single beam again here because I probably would have one shot it, but just because I wanted to use the same move, I used double edge, taking out Shroomish in one shot, and defeating May once again pretty easily. Anyway, after defeating May, we arrive in FORTREE City. Now I don't know about you, but I feel like there's a lot more than 4 trees here. Shortly after leaving FORTREE City, we run into Steven on a bridge, and normally in this game he makes you battle a Kecleon with his invisible Pokemon finding machine, but for some reason my game glitched out, I don't know why, and the emulator made it turn into a Urusing. This glitch will come up again later, so watch out for it, I'll let you know when it happens. Now unfortunately for the 6th gym battle, I didn't get the entire footage because the video corrupted. I only got the end of the battle against Skarmory, but it was a super easy gym and I beat everything in one shot with Shockwave pretty much, and I ended the battle on full health, so it wasn't that hard at all. Sorry I didn't get the footage, but there's nothing I can really do unless I go back and do the entire game again, and I ain't doing that shit, so just deal with it. After defeating the 6th gym, it's time for us to head to Mount Pyre. We received the red orb from Mount Pyre, and then it's time for us to go to LILYCOVE City. After arriving in LILYCOVE City, we must battle May one more time. To start off the battle, she sends out her Swallow, which goes down to 1 double edge. Next up, she sends out Combustion, which you guessed it also goes down to 1 double edge. Next up, she sends out her Whalmer, which also goes down to 1 double edge. Last but not least, she sends out Shroomish, which goes down to 1 signal beam. And with that, we have defeated May once again. After defeating May, we must head back to Slayport because Team Magma has stole a submarine, which means we have to chase Team Magma back to their hideout. The only thing of note that happened is we had to battle one of the Team Magma admins. They started off the battle by sending out Numel. Numel went down to 1 double edge. Next up was Mardiana. Once again, Mardiana did lower my attack with the Intimidate, but he's still not strong enough to survive 1 single beam because it's super effective. Last but not least, they send out the Camerupt. Unfortunately, double edge is not enough to take it out. Unfortunately for me, they do use a super potion to heal up, but I still end up taking out Camerupt with 2 more signal beams, winning the battle and defeating the Team Magma admin. And after defeating the Team Magma admin and clearing out the hideout, we must head to Moss Deep City, which means it's time for the 6th gym battle against Tate and Liza. This battle is a lot harder in Pokemon Emerald, but this is not Pokemon Emerald, this is Pokemon Ruby. So this battle is pretty easy, they only have 1 Lunatone and 1 Solrock. Now both Lunatone and Solrock go down pretty easily in 1 or 2 shots, meaning we win the battle and defeat the 7th gym. Now before I get a bunch of comments saying this gym was too easy, I do agree it was really easy. I don't think it would be much harder in Emerald, to be honest, because I have such good type coverage with bug type moves and electric type moves. Anyway, after defeating Tate and Liza, we head to Steven's house where he gives us Dive so we can continue our journey. After receiving Dive, we have to head to an underwater cave where we must battle Team Magma once more. Speaking of Team Magma, it's time for us to battle Magma leader Maxi. To start off the battle, Maxi sent out his Mardiana, which hit me with the Intimidate, lowering my attack. Unfortunately, with this lowered attack stat, Signal Beam was low enough to take out Mardiana, so he gets off 1 takedown, doing a bit of damage, and then he gets a heal with a Super Potion, but eventually I do take him out with Signal Beam anyway. Next up, Maxi sends out his Camerupt, which goes down to 3 double edges. Next up, he sends out Crobat, and I decided to use Subscribe and use Shockwave, but it doesn't do enough damage, and then he ends up taking me out with Air Cutter. Luckily, Alexander is still alive to avenge Subscribe. He comes out and uses double edge, taking out Crobat and defeating Magma leader Maxi. Good work, Alexander. Anyway, after defeating Magma leader Maxi, it's time for us to fly over to SOOTOPOLIS City. In SOOTOPOLIS City, we have to head into the Cave of Origin. Now it's time for us to battle the legendary Pokemon for this game, Bayonet. You're probably wondering, where's Groudon? Well, you know I mentioned earlier that I had that glitch where the Pokemon changed, like with Urusing. Well, this is what happened here. Groudon became Bayonet. I know that kind of ruins the challenge a little bit because I didn't get the battle legendary, but I just thought it was so funny and I couldn't fix it, so this is what we have to deal with now, and I'm just throwing the game. I'm not going to give up on the challenge. If you have a problem with it, leave it in the comments down below, and I'll definitely not read it. Thank you very much. Now, during the battle against Bayonet, I actually ran out of PP on my only move that could hit it, but then it ended up taking itself out with Curse, meaning I win the battle and defeat Bayonet, the legendary Pokemon, for Pokemon Ruby. After defeating the legendary Pokemon Bayonet, it's finally time for us to battle the last gym leader, Wallace, the user of Water-type Pokemon. To start off the battle, Wallace sends out his Love Disc, and then I hit it with a few Shockwaves. It doesn't end up confusing me, which is why the battle takes so long, because I keep missing and hitting myself with confusion. But eventually I do end up taking Love Disc out with a few Shockwaves. Next up he sends out his Wish Cash, which goes down to 2 double edges from Alexander. Not before he uses Amnesia to raise his special attack for some reason, even though my attack was physical. Next up he sends out his Celia, which goes down to 2 shockwaves really easily. Next up he sends out his Seeking, which I hit with 2 shockwaves, taking it out, but not before it knocks me down to 16 health with a Water Pulse. Last but not least, Waller sends out his Milotic, and I hit Milotic with 1 shockwave. Unfortunately, shockwave is not enough to take it out, and it takes me out with an Ice Beam. Next up is Alexander. Now against Milotic, Alexander goes for Double Edge and does a decent amount of damage, but unfortunately it's not enough to take it out, and then it heals up with Recover. And because of Recover, I can't take out Milotic, and then I end up taking myself out with Double Edge, losing the battle against Wallace. I guess it's time to retry. After grinding subscribe up another 6 levels, I managed to get up to Milotic with a lot more health. This time around with a crit, Shockwave does a lot more damage to Milotic, knocking it down to about a quarter of its own health. And then again, I don't know how Milotic survives the next Shockwave on like literally 1 health, and then he uses Recover. Next up he uses Ice Beam, which does a decent amount of damage to me, and then he decides to heal with a Hyper Potion up to full health, and then I decide to use Shockwave, which does barely any damage to his Milotic. I do a decent amount of damage with a Shockwave, but then he heals up to almost full health with Recover, hits me with an Ice Beam, knocking me down to 4 health. After the Ice Beam I hit him with another Shockwave, knocking him into the red, but then he takes me out with an Ice Beam. Now it's time to send out Alexander. Alexander comes out and gets revenge for a subscribe, taking out Milotic with 1 Double Edge, winning the battle and defeating the 8th gym. Anyway, after defeating the 8th gym, it's finally time for us to head to Victory Road. Now you guys are going to be mad about this, but unfortunately the battle against Wally also corrupted, and I only got the end of the battle against Roselia and his Gardevoir. Roselia, as you can see, went down to 1 shot with Double Edge, and Gardevoir went down to 1 shot with Single Beam. This battle was super easy. I went in with like half health, and I wiped his entire team in like 1 shot. So yeah, it wasn't really big of an issue. Now with that out of the way, it's finally time for us to verse the Elite Four. Speaking of the Elite Four, it's time for us to battle first Elite Four member, Sydney. He starts out by sending out Mightyena, which once again because of Intimidate lowers my attack stat. Unfortunately for Mightyena, even though it lowered my attack, it's still not strong enough to survive a Signal Beam. Next up is Absol, which also goes down to 1 Signal Beam. Next up is Cacturne, which is a Grass Dark type, meaning Signal Beam is 4 times super effective, which means it easily takes it out in 1 shot. Then he sends out Sharpedo, which you guessed it also goes down to 1 Signal Beam. Last but not least, he sends out Shiftry. Shiftry is also a Dark Grass type like Cacturne, meaning that Signal Beam is 4 times super effective, meaning I easily take it out, beating the battle and defeating the first Elite Four member. Now to save time on this video, because the video is already like 17 minutes long, I'm going to tell you right now, the first attempt against Phoebe went really badly, as you're probably watching right now. Phoebe is absolutely really overpowered, and a lot of Pokemon have like confusion moves which really screw me over, and this is why I lost the battle. So yeah, as you'll see, I lost really badly. So I'm skipping it, and I'll show you the one where I actually win. Now to actually get a decent run on this Elite Four member, I had to be level 80, and this is the first run at level 80. At level 80, Subscribe takes out a Sableye with 2 Water Pulses without getting burned, which is super lucky. I also take out Bayonet with 2 Water Pulses pretty easily. Next up she sends out her Dusclops, and with Dusclops I get super lucky hitting Confusion on the second Water Pulse, and then eventually I take it out with a few more Water Pulses, and it hit itself once in Confusion, and also got a critical. I don't think the critical really mattered, but I like to mention it anyway. And with that we have defeated Phoebe, the second Elite Four member. Next up is Elite Four member Glacier. Now against Glacier I got such bad luck that a Glalie froze me on the first turn, and then I was frozen for 6 turns afterwards, which is just super unlucky. So I pretty much just skipped this battle and reset, even though I still had Alexander alive, because I'm not going to deal with that bad luck. Next time around I decided to start off the battle with Alexander instead of Subscribe. I started off the battle by using Double Edge, then it healed up with a full Restore, and then I took it out with a Quick Attack and a Double Edge. Next up Glacier sends out Celia, and I use Shockwave on it, almost taking it out in 1 shot. Then he uses stuff for me doing a decent amount of damage, and then I take it out with a second Shockwave. Next up he sends out another Celia, and it's pretty much the same story with this one. I take it out with 2 Shockwaves. Next up Glacier sends out her next Glalie, and I use the Quick Attack Double Edge combo to take it out in 2 shots. Unfortunately Double Edge also takes out the Alexander, so it's a Subscribe versus Walrein. Now I was pretty sure I'd lose against Walrein because Walrein is a very powerful Pokemon, but then I hit it with a Shockwave and did a surprising amount of damage, and then its Blizzard did barely any damage to me. And then I took it out with a second Shockwave, defeating the third Elite Four member. Last but not least, it's time for the fourth Elite Four member, Drake. Just after the battle he sends out his Shell Gun, which hits me with a Rock Tomb, but I take it out with 2 Double Edges. Next up he sends out his Flygon, which I try and take out with 2 Water Pulses, but it survives on like a little bit of health, and then it heals up with a full Restore, but then I take it out with 3 more Water Pulses anyway. Flygon also set up a Sandstorm, which is kind of annoying. Next up he sends out his second Flygon, and then his Flygon just spams Sand Attack, making my accuracy really low. And then eventually it takes me out with a few Flamethrowers, which is unfortunate. Anyway, after Subscribe faints, I send out Alexander and take it out with a Double Edge. Next up is Salamence, and I try and stall out by healing with Moonlight, but his Flying Flamethrower is doing too much damage, and it eventually takes me out. Which means we have to reattempt this battle once again. Yay, because we're not high enough level. Now to even stand a chance against Salamence, I had to grind all the way up to level 90, but at level 90 I got up to Salamence with subscribe at full health. Now with Salamence he tried to stall me out with a few force stores, but I did manage to take it out eventually with a few shockwaves, finally beating Salamence onto his last Pokemon, Altaria. Now as for Altaria, I almost do take it out with a few water pulses and shockwaves, but eventually it takes me out with a takedown. Fortunately for me, the side of Alexander freaks out Altaria, and then takes stuff out with takedown, meaning I finally beat the Elite Four member, Drake. Now after defeating the Elite Four, it's time for us to battle Steven, the champion. Now this should be the hardest battle in the entire run. Now to start off the battle he sends out Skarmory, and unfortunately for Steven, Skarmory goes down to one shockwave. Next up he sends out his Claydol. I decided to switch to Alexander, and I used Single Beam taking out Claydol in one shot. Next up Steven sends out his Cradilly, and because I'm an idiot I decided to use Double Edge, not remembering that Single Beam is super effective, and does like only a quarter damage, but next turn I do use Single Beam taking it out in one shot. Well, technically two shots, but you know what I mean. Next up Steven sends out his Armadillo, and I send out Subscribe and use Water Pulse, which is surprisingly, I wasn't expecting this one-shot's Armadillo. Damn. Next up he sends out his Aggro, and I definitely wasn't expecting the one-shot this, but I used Water Pulse taking it out in one shot. Man, this is so surprising, I've one-shot almost all of his Pokemon. Next up he sends out his strongest Pokemon and my favourite Pokemon from Gen 3, Metagross. Now unsurprisingly, Single Beam does not one-shot Metagross because Metagross is really tanky, and then he takes me out with a Hyper Beam, which honestly is a bit overkill considering I'm only on 28 health. But anyway, next up I have to send out Subscribe. After sending out Subscribe, I take out Metagross with one Water Pulse, defeating the champion really easily. Honestly though, what was that battle? Steven's Pokemon were an absolute joke at this point. Well anyway, that's the champion defeated. After the most disappointing champion battle I've had in any of my Pokemon runs, we finally get to enter Illumise and Volbeat into the Hall of Fame. Honestly, this challenge was a very different experience to all my other Pokemon runs, because it's the only one I've done with more than one Pokemon, and it was actually my longest. This challenge took me almost 25 hours, it was my longest challenge ever. My second longest is Ninja, which took me like 15 hours, so this is pretty long compared. The reason this challenge took so long is just because I had so much grinding to do off screen, but with that out of the way, we have finally beaten Pokemon Ruby with just Illumise and Volbeat. Anyway, with that out of the way, we have completed the challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was a very fun video to make. If you guys have any ideas for any challenge videos, leave them in the description below, and I'll definitely try and do them if I think they're really good. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you click on the playlist in the bottom left corner. There'll be a ton of these videos you guys can like binge watch. They're all really good. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely enjoy those ones. I worked really hard on them and I really appreciate it if you guys watch those. Now in the bottom right there'll be a picture of my beautiful mug if you guys want to subscribe. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers for my birthday, which is 22nd of May, and I'd really appreciate it if we can hit that goal. So go ahead and hit a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. See you later.